Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. As you are listening to this, I am just getting back from my time in Japan over the holidays. But as always, I've got a good one for you, as today we kickstart the new year. We are going to have a conversation about what we think 2026 looks like for Nintendo. And I couldn't do this without bringing on one of my all-time favorite guests. He's the host of the Nintendo Voice Chat podcast. It's IGN's Logan Plant. Logan, how have you been? It's been way too long since you've been on the show.
Hey Brian, doing well. It has been too long. Yeah, it was a super busy second half of 2025, but I'm excited to turn the page to 2026.
Absolutely, and we're going to do that right here on this episode. But before we do that, Logan, last week's episode was our annual awards show here on All Things Nintendo, which you were the guest for in 2024.
That's right, yeah.
Ahead of our future-facing conversation, what was your favorite Nintendo game of 2025?
Easy, Donkey Kong Bonanza. No question, by
Really?
far my favorite
Well, I know you
game.
loved that game.
Yeah. My game of the year, voted for it in IGN's Game of the Year awards, and for our best Nintendo game of 2025, which it did win. It did take home that over at IGN across our whole staff vote. But yeah, far and away, it was DK. I loved a lot last year. My runner-up's probably Kirby Air Riders. I really adore that game, but I think that Nintendo's whole lineup last year was really strong.
Yeah, what letter grade would you give for Nintendo in 2025, like including pluses and minuses?
Probably borderline B plus A minus. I think it was a
Okay.
really good year. I think that software wise, they killed it. They had a lot of great games, and I like the risks that they took last year. I think 3D Donkey Kong instead of 3D Mario, awesome. Kirby Air Riders instead of Smash Brothers or something else, wild choice that I think turned out into a game that's going to be a cult classic for several years to come. And I think that the only reason I maybe don't go A minus or A is because there was some controversy, some issues people had. Mario Kart being $80, some of the Switch 2 edition stuff was not thrilled about. But overall, a really strong transitional year to Switch 2.
Yeah, Tim Geddes, who was the guest last week for our award show, he and I both landed on A minus as our grades for
right
last
there.
year. So
Yeah.
I think we were all kind of in alignment there. It was like, yeah, if you look at like the Switch 1's first year, 2017, as like the A plus, where you got Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, ARMS, several other games, a lot of third-party support there. I think that is kind of like the high watermark, and then everything below that is kind of playing catch up. So I think A minus sounds like a great spot to land. We also talked last week about how like neck and neck for me is my favorite Nintendo game of 2025. On one hand, you have Donkey Kong Bonanza. On the other hand, you have Metroid Prime 4.
Oh, it's that high
And
for you. Okay,
I
cool.
love Metroid Prime 4. Like I love the original Metroid Prime. I've
Me
never
too.
really like played through the second and third one like as much as I did with the first one.
Mhm.
But this one recaptures kind of that feeling that I had playing through that first Metroid. I think that, or Metroid Prime, it really does capture that feeling. It lives up to kind of like the expectations that I built up in my head over the years. And Metroid Prime has never been like the, oh my God, there's a Nintendo franchise that I need to play every single game. Like if they put out the trilogy, which I think it's insane that they haven't to this point, I would play all three of those games in the lead up to playing Metroid Prime 4. That did not happen. That's another universe that happened. So going from Metroid Prime Remastered to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, it felt like such a natural evolution. And I would be really fascinated to go back to play 2 and 3 and see like if you can really spot like the gradual change, or if it really is just like Retro went like, hey, let's go back to basics with Prime 4, add this like psychic stuff and add like some new abilities. But ultimately it does feel like similar flow outside of like the open world sandbox stuff, that literal sandbox, you're out in a desert, of Metroid Prime 4. But like I think the level design feels ripped straight out of Metroid Prime 1 minus the psychic stuff. And it's endlessly rewarding. And I think that it depending on what day you ask me, I will tell you it's either Donkey Kong Bonanza or Metroid Prime 4 as my favorite Nintendo game of 2025.
Cool. Yeah, I love Metroid Prime 4. I'm very mixed on a lot of it. Like, I think the weakest points are pretty weak, but the high points are so high for me that it really, like, what I take away from that game, having finished it several weeks ago now, is the high points that I agree with you are in line with the highs of the Metroid Prime trilogy. There are areas I won't forget exploring for the first time, like Ice Belt, when you just travel through that lab. It is amazing. I love Volt Forge. Even Lava Pool, which is more NPC heavy. I think that is a really awesome action set piece that they pull off really, really well. So I love Prime 4. Right now, as we're recording this, it's kind of, I think, in its lowest point of the discourse where people are really starting to hate it. But I went through that too in the review period. So I'm sure people are going to come around and it's going to even out to a game that I think people look back on positively overall.
Yeah, I think that people were kind of overblown in their worries for like the NPC interactions that we were going to have with a lot of these characters, because like overall I would say it's like 95% a solitary experience, which is what you want from a Metroid game. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. But yeah, it's up there with Donkey Kong Bonanza in terms of my favorite games of Nintendo's 2025. By the way, how did the IGN Game of the Year and like award deliberations go? Like, you know, behind the scenes, like they're always pretty lively at Game Informer. I'm just curious, like how those discussions unfold at other major outlets.
Yeah, no, they're definitely very lively. We had like 40 people in a Google Meet call, just taking turns raising their hands with that function on the call and defending their favorite games, and nominations and winners got swapped in and out on the fly based
Oh
on
my God.
live straw polls in Google Meet. Like it was very, very lively. It was a lot of fun. I showed up on vacation. This was over Thanksgiving break, and I logged on to this 1 hour meeting just to say my piece for Bonanza, which did end up winning our best Nintendo game. Didn't quite go that way for Game of the Year, but yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah, there were some where it's like, especially with Game Informer being a print magazine, you know, we have to have a set number of things, right? We're like, okay, we're going to devote this many pages to this feature of like our best games of 2025. We know we're going to have a top 10. We know we're going to have like other categories and like editor picks that are just like, hey, if you, it's not going to win an award, but if you want to shout out like this game, this is your chance to do it. So we have to have a set number of those to fill the set number of pages.
Yeah.
So it's like we get down to there and we're like, okay, this is how many games we want to have. And then everybody lists out the games they want to shout out. And then it gets down to the point of like, we've got to cut like five. And then it becomes
Mhm.
like a battle royale of like, all right, we've got to eliminate five of these. How do we do this? Like, and then it becomes like kind of the gloves are off. It's very amicable. Past years, like pre-pandemic, when we were all in a room together, it was just a bloodbath. We would get like yelling, we would lose our cool. It was just intense conversations. And I think we're a lot more civil now that we're all remote, because like we're not like having that instant knee jerk reaction of like, no, let me jump in and interrupt you, because you know everybody kind of waits their turn a little bit better when you're
Yeah.
remote. But it is still, it can get pretty intense in some of those debates.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Before we jump too much into this discussion about 2026, just a reminder that you are listening to the All Things Nintendo podcast. This show arrives in your podcast feeds completely free each and every Friday, brought to you by the fine folks who support me on Patreon. Without people like them, this show would simply not exist. You can join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month. That gets you access to the community Discord, which lets you hang out with fellow listeners of the show. But there are also $5 and $10 tiers to get you early and ad-free episodes, plus shoutouts at the end of every episode. Just go to patreon.com and search All Things Nintendo. It's only because of the wonderful folks who support this show that it is able to continue each and every week. So, as a disclosure, we should throw this out here right off the bat. This might be woefully outdated because we are recording this the day before the Game Awards.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
any of the news that is coming out of that will not be included, which, you know, may be a bit odd, especially since, you know, a couple weeks ago at this point, as you're listening to this, you heard us break down all the TGA news. But you know, I had to hop on a couple of planes and am on the other side of the planet at this point, so it just is impossible to get it all out at a timely fashion. But hopefully, you can suspend disbelief in that regard, so I can, you know, get a nice little vacation in. So,
Yeah, you
Logan,
deserve it.
looking forward at 2026 for Nintendo, we have a very incomplete picture of what this year is going to look like for Nintendo. They've adopted this kind of model of like, we're going to announce games with kind of the anti Metroid Prime 4 method of like, we're going
Mhm.
to wait until the last possible minute to announce these games. So, you know, I think the furthest off game that we really know about is Fire Emblem, right? Like in terms of like the games that we think are coming out in 2026, like is Fire Emblem the furthest out game?
Well, Splatoon Raiders is still TBA.
Oh,
Doesn't even have a
right.
year attached to it, so that might come later. The Dusk Bloods, I have no idea. I don't know. That
Oh,
could show
God.
up at the Game Awards, so I don't even know if we should talk too much about that one. That seems really likely to me. But yeah, there's plenty of games that are just blanket 2026 that we don't even have a quarter for yet.
Yeah, so let's just, I guess, go chronologically as they lay right now on the release calendar. And the first one that I see on the calendar is Animal Crossing New Horizons Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which, performance upgrade, giving you more characters that can, or more players that can join you online. But also, like, there's this whole, like, you're making hotels for, like, it's almost like the Happy Home, not Happy Home Designer. What is
Paradise
the
for
Paradise?
Horizons,
Happy
yeah.
Home Designer was the 3DS game. Happy
Mhm.
Home Paradise was the expansion that came out for the Switch 1 version. This is like letting you do that on like a kind of like on steroids. How are you feeling about Animal Crossing New Horizons Nintendo Switch 2 edition?
Yeah, feeling good about it. I think that this is a really interesting strategy, $5 Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade path for pre-existing owners. And to me, this says this is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I don't think we see a new Animal Crossing for multiple years at this point. We know at Nintendo for a long time, development teams have been kind of split between Animal Crossing and Splatoon, and they're making Splatoon Raiders. Probably signals to me Splatoon 4 is next up for them, and New Horizons is going to be this living, breathing thing that continues to get content updates across both Switch 1 and Switch 2 for the next few years. I'm mixed in how I feel about that aspect of it because, yeah, I always want a new Animal Crossing. I didn't love that we had to wait 10 years for a new Mario Kart, essentially, for Mario Kart World. But I think that this is going to be a really natural upgrade path for people. You get the update on Switch 1, you see, oh, I can use the fancy new controls and play with more people and do this stuff on Switch 2. I think that's a bigger deal than people think, and that a lot of people are going to upgrade to Switch 2 for Animal Crossing.
Oh, definitely. I think it is the perfect excuse to jump back into this game that 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, actually 6 years ago almost at this point, was the biggest game on the planet. That
Yeah.
everybody was playing
Hmm.
Animal Crossing. Celebrities were playing Animal Crossing, games media, casual gamers, grandparents were playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. It was the thing that set Nintendo's 2020 on fire.
Yeah.
And people have fallen off. I think the player count is probably pretty low at this point, especially relatively speaking. But $5, you could do a lot worse with $5 than upgrading Animal Crossing New Horizons, one of
Hmm.
the second most popular game on Nintendo's best-selling console of all time. That is a high bar to reach, and this game reached it, and I think a lot of people are going to be jumping back in. Also in January, we got Legends of Heroes, Trails Beyond the Horizon, MIO Memories in Orbit, Dynasty Warriors Origins, and Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Any of those catching your eye?
Yeah, I played Intergrade on Switch 2 at PAX West, and whoa, that game looks really great on Switch 2, specifically in handheld mode. I walked away really, really impressed. So I think this is going to be a huge third party get for Nintendo.
Speaking of 2020 games that just blew me away, that was
Yeah.
one of my favorite games of that year. I think it may have only been beaten by Ghost of Tsushima, which
Mhm.
is a top 25 game of all time for me. But Final Fantasy VII Remake, I have a lot of love for this remake trilogy. I wrote the Game Informer cover story on Seven Rebirth. And it's just an incredible accomplishment that they were able to take one of the most beloved RPGs of all time, change almost everything about it, but still have it feel like a familiar experience. And it coming to Nintendo is just such an incredible thing. Like, I'm so happy that this game is coming to Switch, or I guess Switch 2. And yeah, that's definitely one that I am really looking forward to. I know a lot of people love Dynasty Warrior Origins. I'm not a big Musu guy myself, but it's one that people are very excited for.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one on Switch too, because I skipped it on PS5 and I'm
Mhm.
going to play it here.
All right, let's jump over to February. We've got a pretty solid February here, especially when you're looking at the Switch 2 lineup here. We've got Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, Mario Tennis Fever, Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village, and Resident Evil Requiem. They, for some reason, are
So
dropping all those
stupid.
games on the same day
Yeah.
on Switch 2. I'm sure it's not going to cannibalize sales whatsoever.
Hmm.
Very weird decision. And Tales of Berseria Remastered. And we're also going to get a Pokemon Day right there at the end of February as well. So, potentially something related to the next generation of Pokemon games. And then something that people might not be aware of, The Legend of Zelda, the series' 40th anniversary, is also in February. So if Nintendo is planning on doing something, that might be a good excuse. It's just 1 week before Pokemon Day. So I don't know if maybe they want to space it out a little bit. But let's start with Mario Tennis Fever. Are you a big Mario Tennis guy?
Oh yeah, love Mario Tennis. Loved it since the N64. I love Mario Tennis Aces. I think that's a pretty underrated game in the Switch library. Its gameplay is just awesome. I think Fever's looking good so far. I'm not entirely sold on its gimmicks yet of the different rackets. I feel like that's going to lean maybe too hard into party mode stuff instead of the tennis gameplay that I really loved for Mario Tennis Aces. But I also hope the single player campaign is a step forward because that has been a struggle in the Switch era's sports games so far. And we got Baby Waluigi and Bonanza Donkey Kong in this game, so I really hope it turns out great.
Yeah, that single player mode, especially with Mario Golf Super Rush
Oh, it's
and
so good.
Mario Tennis Aces, those brought down the entire experience for me. And I why can't we just go back to the types of single player experiences we were getting in these sports games on like the GameCube and Game Boy Advance and Game
Yeah.
Boy Color era
Hmm.
of like these sports games, because those were so much more engaging. You got like all these RPG elements. You often got like a fun little story to follow along. It wasn't
Hmm.
super frustrating. It wasn't super convoluted. I am holding out hope that Mario Tennis Fever, I mean, this may be an absolute fool's errand or like just a hopeless optimist in me, wanting Mario Tennis Fever's single player campaign to be really good. They led with it as one of like the things when they revealed it on that Nintendo
Yeah.
Direct.
Hmm.
But does that necessarily mean it's a mark of quality? I don't know. They also are
Hmm.
showing very selective things. So who knows what this is going to end up being. But I'm with you though. I think that they could lean a little bit too. I mean, there's multiple ways that the racket gimmick could go, right? They could go way too far in like the casual side where it's like, okay, it's a party game, like people are doing ridiculous things with the rackets and like building, or they could go too hardcore. They could make it so it's like, all right, you got to like, find the meta within Mario Tennis, which I don't think anybody really wants to do. Like maybe it'll
Hmm.
surprise us and it'll like be perfectly balanced and it's just like a fun way to interact with all kinds of different, tennis matches and everything. And I love Mario Tennis as well. So like I'm excited for this. I think that it's up there with like my favorite Mario sports franchises. It's like Mario Tennis and Mario Golf are probably the top dogs on that.
Then you're lucky because those are the only two they seem to care about very
I know.
much that
Well,
always
hey, they
get
tried
games.
Mario Strikers, but it
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
didn't turn out super well. But
Hmm.
yeah, Mario Tennis Fever is definitely one that I am extremely excited for. Which the other one on this month, I would say that I'm most excited for is Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Like
Me too.
one of the most beloved, most cherished RPGs of all time, and I feel like it's kind of like unapproachable at this point because like it's just what is it like on 3DS and PS2 and that's it.
Yeah, PS1. Yeah.
PS1. Oh
Yeah.
god.
And the 3DS version got really expensive over time.
Hmm. Yeah, so that was how I tried to play it originally, and I just kind of was like, I don't know how, because like Game Informer used to have its vault, so I would just go check out games, and
Mm-hmm.
like I'm also not the biggest handheld guy, so like it's hard for me to stick with a long play game on handheld. I'm if I'm flying somewhere, obviously I will bust out the Switch and enjoy my time in that. But like if I'm sitting at home, I don't want to just like hold a screen up to my face. Like that is not my preferred way to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So having it be on 3DS was really hard for me if I didn't have like a trip to go on, like in terms of like sticking with it. Because it's like there's a giant TV right in front of me. Why am I not playing this on that? Thankfully, with the Switch, we don't have to worry about that. And that's why I'm really hopeful for this because Game Informer just did its cover story on it. All the stuff that I read, all the stuff that I learned from talking to Wes, who was the cover story writer for that, tells me that this game is going to be something really special. And it's, we just talked about how great Square Enix has done with the Final Fantasy VII remake trilogy. Why not have an incredible approach that is different from like Final Fantasy VII Remake's approach, but also different from the original approach in another 7 RPG, Dragon Quest 7. Like this could be a really amazing way to like introduce players to one of the more beloved entries in this franchise that I think that like has really experienced a little bit of a mainstream renaissance through
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Quest 11.
Yeah, and the 1, 2, and 3 HD2D remakes were
Oh
all
yeah.
fantastic. That's like industry standard for what remakes should be doing right now. And I look at 7, which is also an extraordinarily long game in its original versions. And so for Reimagined to be preserving most of that content, but moving a lot of it to side quests and kind of streamlining its main path a little bit from probably an 80 to 90 to maybe like a 40 or 50-hour thing. I think that's great. The art style's been divisive. I really like the diorama look. I think it
Oh, I
fits
love
that
it.
art style perfectly. So I'm right there with you. I think this is gonna be one of the best games on Switch 2 next year.
I remember the first time I saw that art style and I was like, this is going to be divisive, but I freaking love this.
Yeah.
Like the doll aesthetic that they have going there, and like the diorama, as you mentioned, like for the backdrops, it is such a unique looking game. The same way those HD 2D games are very unique
Hmm.
looking. This establishes its own thing, and like it's amazing how different their approaches are for like remaking these different games. Because like Live Alive got it the HD 2D remake. Final Fantasy 1 through 6 got the pixel remaster versions,
Hmm.
and then Final Fantasy 7 remake and rebirth, and then this. It's like, man, Square Enix is really like diving in head first and like getting creative with how they do these remakes. So I'm loving it. I'm excited for that one. Then we got that Resident Evil kind of like modern trilogy that is coming to Switch all on the same day. So Resident Evil 7 came out many years ago. Resident Evil Village came out, 2021, 2022, something like that.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then Resident Evil Requiem is the only true new release that's coming out. And that this is all happening on Pokemon Day / my birthday, February 27th. And
Wait, that's your birthday is the 27th?
yes,
Mine's the
I share.
26th.
What?
Yeah,
How did we
yeah, we're
not know
day
this?
apart. Yeah.
So we get our one of our favorite franchises. That's why I always tell people, it's like, yeah, I always get like news of like one of my favorite franchises every single year. And
Hmm.
yeah, the Pokemon people were very excited when they learned that fact about me. But
That's neat. Yeah.
it's going to be Resident Evil Requiem Day for a lot of people. And are you a fan of the Resident Evil franchise? Because there are some games I've played to death, but other games like this modern trilogy where I have not really spent that much time with it.
Yeah, I'm just not always a huge horror game fan. I like them, but I usually play them with other friends in the room, pass around the controller. Like if I'm alone, it's a little too intense sometimes for me. But I do really like Resident Evil. A buddy of mine and I have played through RE2 and 4 remake. Love those games very much. And so 9 on Switch 2, which by all accounts looks really good. The RE engine is just a miracle, so that's fantastic. I'm definitely going to try it out.
Yeah, I would like to finally give these a shot. I think I played like the first like 2 hours of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and I was like, oh, that's
Hmm.
really good. I should go back to that. And then I just never did. And then I didn't play Village at all, but I heard like I was on the Game Informer staff when that came out. So people were like losing their minds over how good it was. And I'm like, I believe you. I just
Yeah.
didn't really get into it. But like, yeah, I would love to play through this trilogy. Maybe this is my excuse to do so. Let's get over to March.
Wait,
So
hold
we
on.
have,
We passed one thing in
oh,
February.
what did I miss? What
Virtual
did,
Boy Nintendo Classics,
oh,
February
God.
17th. Are you buying the headset?
I'm probably not. I mean, maybe like sometimes Nintendo sends over things like, and this is like, you need this to cover it.
Yeah.
So if they do send us one, I will absolutely play these. But like, man, paying $100 for like a fake Virtual Boy headset so you can play emulated Virtual Boy games on your Switch 2 seems like a little bit of a bridge too far. And I know there's like the Labo headset version of it that you can do, but like that, I feel like if you're gonna pay money for it, you have to go all the way and get like the plastic replica. I don't know, like $100 seems like a steep price, but how are you feeling about that?
Oh, I bought it last night begrudgingly. It's on the way. So I agree. It's ridiculous and I don't know why I did it, but I did. I've
Do
never
you?
played any Virtual Boy games before. It's the only
Oh wow.
Nintendo console I've never meaningfully touched. So I'm very excited to actually try a couple of the games that people say are good.
So for me, what this is Nintendo dipping its toe in the water and seeing if people will buy a peripheral to unlock a catalog of games of its classic titles. And I
Yeah.
think that if this is successful and doesn't really have any problems, like they are obviously doing one that is lower scale, right? Like not how many millions of people are going to buy this? Probably less than 1 million people are going to
Hmm.
buy this thing. However, if there's like good reception and people are like, yeah, this is actually really good, like the peripheral works great and it works on this smaller scale, I would not be surprised if we get like kind of like a 3DS or like something like a two screen, like a clamshell design that allows us to get DS and 3DS in a similar
That'd be
fashion.
great. Yeah.
Because like I feel like they've been trying to crack the code of how do we get like DS and 3DS games over without reworking like the second screen
Yeah.
aspect. And I feel like that's the way to do it. Although I would much rather them just rework like A Link Between Worlds and put that on the Switch too as
Me
like
too.
a
Hmm.
single screen experience. But I've always thought that like for the most part, like Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks aside, I've always thought that the second screen experience for Zelda games was fantastic and actually enhanced the experience because you could have like your inventory on the screen, don't have to go into the pause menu in order to swap out your items.
Yeah. Hmm.
That said, I would not hate it if they just put Link Between Worlds on Switch 2 and you had to have like the peripheral. But that's not my preferred method, because my preferred method was I could just jump on a plane with my Switch 2 and have Link Between Worlds right there and not have to have like a clunky 3DS peripheral. But we'll see what they can do. We'll see what this Virtual Boy thing comes out, and like how it is received by players and critics, and if like there's any technical hiccups or anything, because this is a brand new peripheral and there might be some problems with it, but Nintendo's usually pretty good about ironing out a lot of that stuff before the game comes out.
Yeah. Hmm.
But March, we've got again some big stuff in this month. The biggest one I would say is Pokemon Pokopia, but there's also Coffee Talk Tokyo, Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake, Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection, Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered, Mouse PI for Hire, and 007 First Light. So a lot of stuff to dig into there, but obviously, let's start Pokemon Pokopia. We just talked about how much we loved Animal Crossing New Horizons and like how successful that was for Nintendo. I think this is another point in your favor, Logan, about how we're probably not getting an Animal Crossing game for a while, because I think this fills that gap in Nintendo's. Plus, we have the Switch 2 version of New Horizons earlier in the year. I mean, I think that this is probably their like this is them checking that box of like, all right, we're not going to have an Animal Crossing game for a while. We have Pokemon Pokopia that scratches a lot of those same itches. But like, what was your reaction when we first saw this?
Yeah, my reaction is that of all the games announced right now that are new for next year, so I'm not counting Animal Crossing in this. Of all the new games we have announced for next year, this is going to sell the most copies. This is going to be
Yeah.
a huge, huge seller. You've got the Animal Crossing audience, plus the Pokemon audience, and just general cozy gamer audience. This is going to be enormous. Pokemon is going to have a huge spotlight next year for the 30th anniversary. And I think that when we have that Pokemon Day presentation on your birthday in February, we're going to see probably Gen 10. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And they're going to put a highlight on this as well and say, hey, but in like a week from now, you can play this on your Switch too. Everyone that picked up Animal Crossing again is going to see that and say, oh, this is a new thing I can jump to. Because 3.0 of Animal Crossing looks like a lot of content, but I don't know if it's anything that's going to get years and years and years out of it. So it's like get people back in, and then here's this new thing only on our next console. I think it's going to be an enormous success, and I think the game looks really good. Also, it looks like that Dragon Quest Builders style, but with a Pokemon skin. I think it's going to be a huge hit.
I love Dragon Quest Builders, and I'm glad you called that out, because that's the other game that I think it's like, melding with, right? It's like the
Yeah.
Pokemon license or Pokemon IP, a little bit of Animal Crossing in terms of like the town building and everything, and then a whole lot of Dragon Quest Builders in terms of like, all right, you got to clear out this area. How do we clear this area out? Oh, well, it's funny you should ask, because we've got Hitmonchan here that's going to let us like copy his punching ability, and then we can clear that out. All right, we got to water the plants. How do we do that? Well, there's a Pokemon for that. So it's all very exciting to see how like all these disparate things that are like tangentially related come together under this Pokemon Pokopia umbrella, because like if
Yeah.
it really does come together the way that like it could, like like the best way it could be a really special game.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I don't know if it's going to be something I sink a ton of hours into, but I think there's an audience here that is going to eat this up.
All right, so the other stuff that's coming out this month, we got Coffee Talk Tokyo, Fatal Frame 2 Remake, Monster Hunter Stories 3. Any of these, Mouse PI for Hire, 007 First Light, any of these catching your eye?
Yeah, James Bond. I mean, along with RE9, just like we're getting these days, day one on Switch 2. That is phenomenal. I love Uncharted. I love Hitman. I think the 007 First Light is going to be really, really cool. And I never thought I'd be playing it on a Nintendo console.
Yeah, it's so nice to see James Bond back on a Nintendo console, because,
Yeah.
the most impactful James Bond game of all time was an N64 exclusive, GoldenEye. That was the game that really showed that, like, consoles can have good first person shooters. I would argue it's not until Halo that it was like, okay, consoles can have as good of first person shooters as PCs can have. But like GoldenEye was like, oh, there might be a way to do this in a competent and good way. And sure enough, a few years later, there was with Halo.
Hmm.
But GoldenEye, I think that almost everybody who was alive during that time and a gamer has fond memories of that. And it's going to be fun to dive into a new James Bond game on a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
I am also very excited for Mouse PI for Hire. I don't know if you've
Yeah, that
spent a
game
whole
looks
lot of
really
time
cool.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it does what Cuphead did basically, where it adopts this like older visual style, and but it's a first person shooter, and it's like based almost on like the Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse, and it's like very very retro looking, but also very novel in the way that the
Mhm.
animation works. So that's one that I think that we've been covering over at Game Informer for quite some time, and I'm just ready for it to come out, and we only have a few more months, which is really exciting.
Yeah, very cool.
So other big games that don't necessarily have like release dates, but they are coming to Switch 2. We don't know if this is coming in 2026. I would assume it's coming in 2026 unless it gets outright canceled. Borderlands 4,
Mhm.
uh, the Dusk Bloods. We know that that is something that Nintendo is working very closely with From Software on. Speaking of which, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, which was delayed out of this year after some pretty rough early previews of like performance on that. Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. One that I'm extremely excited about that I don't know how many people have this on their radar, but Inconbini, One Store, Many Stories. I don't know if you know
Oh,
about that one,
yeah,
Logan. Yeah.
yeah, that does look neat.
Yeah, it's like basically a game where you're running a Japanese convenience store, and apparently, like through running this store, you learn a lot about like the customers and also the owners, and like you develop relationships with them. It sounds very very cool. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, Pokemon Champions, Rhythm Heaven Groove, Scott Pilgrim X. I was told that it's probably X because it's playing off of instead of EX because it's playing off of Scott Pilgrim fighting the X's. I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, mhm.
Super Mario Brothers Wonder Switch 2 Edition plus Meet Up in Bella Bell Park, Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, Vampire Crawlers, Witchbrook, and Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. I mean, we can talk about all of these or as many of these as we want to, but anywhere you'd like to start.
Oh man, I think that the Dusk Bloods is going to be a huge deal. I think that yeah, FromSoft has some issues with optimization, Elden Ring not looking great, but building something ground up for Switch 2 that Nintendo is co-publishing in regions outside of Japan. Like, FromSoft is going to step up to make an exclusive game with like the king of games in Japan, which is Nintendo, and just the run they've been on lately, Elden Ring and then Night Rain, which I know is a little more mixed, but I think Night Rain is phenomenal. I think the Dusk Bloods is going to be an enormous, at least timed exclusive for Switch 2. I liken it to like Monster Hunter Rise. Capcom and
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo team up. Here's an exclusive game that will eventually go elsewhere, but this is for Switch. I think the Dusk Bloods is going to be awesome. I think it's going to maybe be unveiled at the Game Awards, so maybe we'll know by the time you're listening to this if that happened, but I can't wait to see what that looks like.
Yeah, Jeff Keighley has a great relationship with Hidetaka Miyazaki and From Software. We've seen them reveal Elden Ring stuff in the past. We've seen, I think, the first tease for Sekiro Shadows Die Twice came at the Game Awards one year.
Yeah. And it won
Sekiro,
Game of the Year there
yeah,
later. Yeah.
Sekiro and Elden Ring both won Game of the Year. So there's a very real scenario that people listening to this podcast know more about Duskbloods than we do in this moment because we're recording this before the Game Awards. But that and Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, I think, are have the potential to be huge for
Mhm.
Switch owners if they can get Elden Ring running well, which
Yeah.
to this point seems like it's been a pretty massive hurdle for them. I mean, to the
Mhm.
point they delayed it out of there.
Mhm.
It was originally supposed to come out in 2025. I'm excited for Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition,
Mm.
but I am a little less excited now that Skyrim Anniversary Edition has hit Switch 2 because it seems like I haven't fired it up yet. Bethesda did provide me with a code to check it out. I have not fired it up as of this recording, but it sounds like it's not the best like Switch 2 upgrade. Like
That's a
it
shame.
seems like they're still running at 30 frames per second, and like yeah, like the resolution maybe looks a little bit better, but it sounds like maybe there people were underwhelmed by like it being locked at 30 frames per second and like some other like kind of typical Bethesda jank, which I have kind of learned to live with over the years because like Fallout 3 is the game that got me into writing reviews about video games. Like that was the first game I ever reviewed because I loved it so much in college that I was like, I want to write a review about this, and I was writing about music at the time. So like the Fallout franchise has always held a special place in my heart, and I'm excited to play Fallout 4 again. But
Cool.
man, I really hope that it runs well and like they're able to optimize it a little bit better than it sounds like they did Skyrim on Switch 2. How are you feeling about Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave? When, granted, we don't know a whole lot about it, but where is it on your hype level?
It's pretty medium right now for me. I'm kind of a known Three Houses hater. I don't think that's a bad game, but I think it's just not a very good strategy RPG at all. I think that the combat scenarios are pretty weak, and that game's way more focused on the tea parties and the relationship building and the persona style calendar system that I don't care about at all personally. And I think this is looks like a sequel to that. I think that's what Fortune's Weave is going to be. So I think for me, I don't know if I'll be too hot on it, but Three Houses is the best selling strategy RPG of all time. So there's no denying that formula worked. I think it's going to be a great exclusive for Switch 2. Just personally, I don't know. Fire Emblem hasn't done it for me kind of since the 3DS.
Yeah, Fire Emblem has been a tough sell for me in recent years. Again, I've heard nothing but amazing things about Three Houses. I tried it and kind of bounced off it, and I'm
Mm.
somebody who loves the Persona franchise, so that stuff should be right up my alley. And maybe I just need to give it time to like mature, and like I can see the brilliance behind it. But it just I don't know. I want to give it another shot. I tried Engage and I bounced off that
Mm.
so hard. Like it just did not do it for me whatsoever. And I've heard some people say it's not as good as Three Houses, which then in that case, I will just play Three Houses if I'm going to try to play a Fire Emblem game. But yeah, Fire Emblem has always been kind of like a lower level franchise for me personally. And again, I understand there are people who are absolutely in love with Fire Emblem and they live and die every time there's a new Fire Emblem game coming out. But it's just, for me personally, it's a lower level like hype franchise.
Yeah.
So one that I am very excited about, and usually is a lower level hype franchise for me, the Lego series.
Mm.
Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. When they put out like a new Lego Batman, I'm like, okay, whatever. This seems like a really cool way of like paying homage to all the different like movies that Batman has been in. And also some of the games. Aren't there like Arkham things in there as well?
Yeah,
Like
there are. Yeah.
it's like all the Batman media. So like it seems like there's comic stuff. It seems like there's movies from like the different cinematic universes. So like you get the Nolan trilogy, you get some stuff from the DCEU, you get stuff from the animated series. Like this is looking like a really cool project for longtime Batman fans.
Yeah, really cool concept. Like the Star Wars, the Skywalker saga is just here's all the movies retold in order. Also, very cool idea, but I think it's really fun to just go crazy kind of with the concept in a Lego game and say this is all kind of one shared universe now. It all happened and it doesn't matter. And it's just kind of vignettes that reference the different eras of Batman. I think it looks really good.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see like what they pull from each one because I feel like I've experienced most mainstream Batman media. I've seen all the movies.
Yeah.
I have watched like the acclaimed like animated movies. I've seen a lot of the animated series, read some of the like the bigger graphic novels.
Hmm.
I'm just really excited to see like what kinds of like they're almost like when you go to like a Marvel movie and not to pull like their biggest competitor as like an example, but like you go to a Marvel movie and some of those movies, it's just like the main draw is what cameos are they going to bring in? Like Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. That was like okay, the main attraction here is what cameos are there going to be? That was such an integral part of their marketing and everything. And I feel like that's kind of the way for this, where it's like, okay, yeah, Lego games are fun. Like I liked Lego Skywalker Saga, but like I'm not like, oh man, I can't wait to play this. This kind of transcends that because of like what Easter eggs, what references, what cameos are they going to have?
Yeah.
That makes me really excited for this game. So let's go on to the next game here that we want to talk about. I don't really know what to think about this because I feel like it's in a weird space of kind of taking the reins from a game and a series that was kind of like the emergence of this franchise as a competitive gaming thing, and that is Pokemon Champions.
Mm-hmm.
So this feels like the spiritual successor to like Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Coliseum, things like that, where it's like, okay, we're just going to make these turn-based battles really, really pretty, and that's admirable, right? Like we want them to look that way. It sounds like this is going to be the way that they're going to have the competitive gameplay at like Pokemon Worlds take place going forward. So I'm really curious what this package even is outside of just like the core battling mechanics. Do you have any insight into like what this could possibly even be?
I think that's pretty much all it is going to be. I think it's going to be a place that no matter what the mainline game is at the time for the next, I don't know, for the foreseeable future, forever, people do their battling here through Pokemon Champions. You can bring in the Pokemon with Pokemon Home. I think it makes a ton of sense. I think that Yeah, I think that it's going to be curious if the competitive community does latch on to this or not. But being on a mobile device, that just expands the reach of competitive Pokemon so much further than it being locked to a Switch or a Switch 2. I think it's really, really smart. I think it will probably launch near or alongside a mainline Pokemon game to kind of punch up its launch.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that we're going to get Pokemon Pokopia early in the year, and then we're going to get maybe, I don't know, maybe Pokemon Champions like right before Worlds, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
that, and like they'll find some way to get like the competitive players like early access so they don't feel like they're jumping into a different game, even though it's similar mechanics or same
Yeah.
mechanics in a lot of
Hmm.
cases. But I think that like Worlds might be like the big coming out for Pokemon Champions, and then probably, Gen 10 or whatever game we end up getting from Pokemon probably in the holiday season. So that's kind of the calendar I'm laying out for Pokemon.
Yeah,
But
I think
it could
that's
be a
fair.
big year for Pokemon. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the tail end of this episode.
Yeah.
But are you a big Rhythm Heaven guy?
Huge. Love Rhythm Heaven so much. I cannot wait for Groove. I think that I predicted it would come out in 2025. I barely missed the mark when they announced it. I'm like, no way. And then there was a 2026 date. Yeah, Mega Mix on 3DS is amazing. So
Hmm.
happy this franchise is getting another shot because that was 10 years ago now, which is crazy to believe. Just quirky, funny, WarioWare style humor, but in a really solid rhythm minigame collection. Fantastic.
I want to lump this in with our conversations with Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, because these are two franchises that I think primarily, I mean, Tomodachi Life only had one entry, but like primarily existing on handheld devices. And when they made the leap over to like, merging those platforms, I feel like I kind of lost hope. Like I was like, all right, well,
Mm-hmm.
Rhythm Heaven, we went the entire Switch generation without getting a new Rhythm Heaven game. We went the entire Switch generation without getting any mention of Tomodachi Life. And it seemed like, Nintendo had ported over what, Miitopia? Is that
Yeah.
yeah, that's the RPG starring Mii's. And those two always went hand in hand for me, where it was like, yeah, Miitopia and Tomodachi Life, if you want to play a game with Mii's, those are the ones you play. It felt like Tomodachi Life was kind of left in the rear view. And I was like, well, we're just never going to get another Tomodachi Life. I'm glad I enjoyed it when I did. That's one of my favorite 3DS games. It's like a sleeper
Mm-hmm.
pick for me as like one of my favorite
I
3DS
agree.
titles.
Yeah.
So when they said there was a new Tomodachi Life coming to Switch, I was like so excited. And everything that I see looks really fun and looks like they're keeping the same like surreal spirit of the first game. The hey, you can put anybody in a room with anybody else. Like you can have like Dr. Phil and Barack Obama having a conversation while Shaquille O'Neal rolls around on the ground. And then you have a
Mhm.
dream where like Reggie Fils-Aimé and Shigeru Miyamoto are like skipping through a field of flowers. And it's like the most like ridiculous scenarios that just play out before you, and it always surprises you, and it's hilarious if you import like your friends or celebrities or whatever into your game, because it just becomes that much more zany to be like, oh, let's see what, you know let's let's see what Eiji Aonuma is up today, and he's like blowing bubbles sitting on the beach with your best friend from college or whoever's in your game.
Yeah.
It's just such a
Mhm.
weird game that like I love every bit of it. But like Rhythm Heaven is right up there with me in terms of like this is an underappreciated Nintendo franchise that we just felt like we were never getting a new entry, and I'm so happy these are both coming back this year.
Yeah, me too. I love Tomodachi Life on 3DS as well. I call it like a me ant farm is what it always reminds of. And
Yeah.
it really is what you put into it. Like if you don't take the time to make great Miis or import great Miis that other people have made or make sure you're pulling from all corners, fictional characters, celebrities, best friends, whatever, but if you really invest in it, it rewards you with just hilarious scenarios that you would have never seen coming like you said. So I'm so psyched that one is coming back too. And these are both Switch 1 games also, which is why it's easy to lump them together. These are going to go out to a wide audience, which makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. So I did not expect us to get any DLC for Mario Wonder, but here we are. We're getting a Switch 2 upgrade plus meetup in Bella Bell Park, which seems like it's expanding the multiplayer offerings, which I think was probably the sorest spot of that
Me
overall
too.
package when it came out in
Mhm.
2023. But how are you feeling about the meetup in Bella Bell Park? I can't say that word.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm not feeling great about it yet. I feel like I would have just wanted if I could have handpicked an expansion for Mario Wonder, it would have been really difficult level packs that would have come out. Time rush challenges like New Super Mario Brothers 2 is my least favorite Mario game. We ranked them on that Mario tier list episode. I don't like that game, but I do
No.
love its coin rush DLC level packs and I would have liked something for that here for Mario Wonder instead of what looks like Mario Party mini games essentially, but with the Mario Wonder gameplay style. Like if I want to do that, I'll play Mario Party. And there's a great one on Switch and Switch 2. So it's not looking like what I want, but at the end they did tease, hey, there's going to be some single player challenges also. So I'll be really interested to see what that is when they give this thing a date because it doesn't have one yet. But it's going to be
I,
April 2nd, by the way. I'll tell
you
you that
think
right
so?
now. Yeah, that's when
Okay.
the Galaxy Amiibo come out. So I'm sure it's
Oh
going to be April
yeah.
2nd.
I mean, we also have the Mario movie right around that time
Yeah.
too. Let's jump into that Mario Galaxy movie. That is coming. What, April?
Yeah. April 7th.
It's something like that. Like,
Yeah, not entirely sure.
how are you feeling about that? Like, we'll come back to the games, but like, I think that it would be impossible to talk about Nintendo's 2026 without talking about the follow up to one of the biggest animated movies of all time.
Yeah, excited. Excited to see kind of how they follow up the original, which I liked some of, didn't like some of it. I thought references, all that stuff was great, but from a story perspective, not the best kids movie out there. Galaxy has very cool, epic vibes. I'm excited to see kind of how they play into that. I loved the first trailer when they go to the spherical
Mhm.
planet with the Cheep Cheeps in the water. It looks like Mario Galaxy. So I'm high on it and excited to see how it turns out.
And I think Brie Larson is a fantastic casting for
Yeah, I don't know
Rosalina.
how we didn't see that coming with how
I
big of a
know.
Nintendo fan she is, and she's worked closely with them before. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it seems like they're not holding back on like how incredibly powerful Rosalina is. Like
Yeah.
she,
Mhm.
what is it? Longlegs is the character.
Yeah, the boss that you have to hit the, like, underside of.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
just wrecked his entire business in that trailer,
Yeah.
and I love that moment so much. And they play the little like jingle after she does it. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. And I really hope that like they double down on like we're gonna really dive into like the Mario universe here. Like it seems like we're getting Yoshi. It's we're obviously getting Rosalina and Bowser Jr. I think just another fun adventure with these characters. They've done a great job of like laying the foundation of like the rules of this Mario universe, and if they can continue to expand on that, like they could really take this film franchise to the next level, which is already like a what $1.3 billion film franchise, and
Yeah.
it's one
Mhm.
movie deep. Like
Yeah.
that's insane. Like I'm so excited for Mario Galaxy movie. So, the last first party game that we officially know of is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which I am a big Yoshi fan. I think that Woolly World is one of the most underrated Wii U games, and it's criminal that it has never made the leap over to Switch. And I would
Yeah.
imagine this is going to prohibit it from making the leap to Switch, at least in 2026, because they're going to be like, oh, we already have a Yoshi game coming out.
Mhm.
No need to do Yoshi's Woolly World Definitive Edition or whatever they would end up calling it. Yoshi's Crafted World, less so, but still good. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. At first, when this was revealed, I thought it was Yoshi's Story too. Like it has
It might as
all of
well
his.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought it was that for sure. But no, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. This is one that I think could either be. I mean, this has been the Yoshi franchise entire story, feast or famine in terms of how good this game is. Like it's rare that you
Mhm.
get a middling Yoshi game. It's either like Yoshi's Island, Yoshi's Woolly World, or it's like Yoshi's New Island, or Yoshi's Story. I think a lot of people are kind of down on because it was
Yeah.
so kind of kid facing.
Mhm.
I loved it because I was a kid when I played it, but like if
Mhm.
I go back and play it now, I'm like, yeah, this isn't the best gameplay experience. Where are you thinking Yoshi and the Mysterious Book falls, even though we don't know a ton about it yet?
I think it's gonna be right up there with Woolly World and Yoshi's Island. I got really strong vibes from that first trailer. I just think the idea, the art style is amazing. That kind of Spider-Verse style stop motion, lower frame rate thing looks really, really good. And I think the concept is strong too, of we're filling out this encyclopedia of how do different things in this world interact with each other. It's like Breath of the Wild light, and I think that's really cute for a kid-friendly Yoshi game. So it all come to the soundtrack is a big thing because it's been quite terrible in a couple of Yoshi games and really amazing in other Yoshi games. But I'm feeling good about this one because I didn't like Crafted World. I hated New Island. I love Woolly World. I think this will at the least be better than Crafted World.
I'd love that. Like I thought Crafted World was overall good, but fell definitely short of
Yeah, it's
Woolly
fine.
World.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
that's your middling Yoshi game. That and Yoshi's Island DS are like they are so fine, so middle of the road.
we'll do a Yoshi tier list next time.
Yeah, sounds good. Yoshi's topsy turvy, not good.
But the other two that I wanted to mention, we don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but two indie games coming. Witchbrook, which is basically like almost like another company trying to do like their version of like Stardew Valley, but instead
Yeah.
of it being a farming sim, it is like almost like Harry Potter, but without the Harry Potter IP. And then Vampire Crawlers, which is like a
Mm.
spin-off of Vampire Survivors, which it's a roguelite deck builder, dungeon crawling game, which that sounds extremely fun and borrows a lot of like the characters and power-ups and everything that you get in Vampire Survivors. So very excited for those. Wanted to shout those out. But before we get into kind of like our realistic predictions, I want to do something real quick here. I wanted to do
Okay.
a quick draft of which franchises we would like to see. This is what we would like to see return in 2026 for Nintendo. And there are 4 categories that I want us to fill here. We'll
Hmm.
take turns. Uh, what franchise we'd want to see get an all new mainline entry, what franchise we'd like to see get a spin off, what franchise we'd like to see get a remake or remaster, and a wild card. So I'm going to
Okay.
bring up on another screen all the Nintendo franchises, and we will go from there. But I'll give you first pick, but or would you rather? I'll give you choice. Do you want to go first pick, or do you want to get second and third pick? So we'll do like the serpentine.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll do second and third. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Oh man, then that gives me that puts the number one pick on
It
me.
does. Yeah.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go. I want to see an all new mainline Mario game in 2026. I think that it's time. I think that we got Donkey Kong Bonanza from the Mario Odyssey team in 2025. In 2026, I think we should get a 3D Mario game, and that's not my prediction. That is my pick in the draft. So you can choose. By the way, you can choose any category to fill. This is like a fantasy football draft where you can
Yeah.
choose
Yeah.
which position you're slotting in for this pick. So all new mainline Mario game is my first pick.
Okay, I'm gonna draft a remake or remaster. I think Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I want a Nintendo
Ooh.
Switch 2 edition of that comes back with a new Fighters Pass included in it. I think that is the path forward for Super Smash Brothers. I think that Sakurai made Air Riders. They've been done with that for a while. I think they moved right onto this smaller scope project where maybe he's gonna train his protege on here's how you do Smash Brothers Crash Course with this DLC pack, and then this will be his swan song for the franchise. You bring everyone back again because it's still Ultimate. Hopefully, that legally makes it easier to keep Sora and all these other crazy characters, and you add 5 more or 6 more characters. I think that would because I don't really need a new Smash. Ultimate is like perfect to me, so just add more to it is my dream.
What if they, and I'm just bolstering your pick here. What if they did that? They brought back Ultimate, 60 FPS, 4K resolution, all that stuff working for it that you expect out of a good Switch 2 upgrade. Give you the fighter pass, or at least commit to 2 fighter passes, and then it's a $20 upgrade. Okay, so $20 upgrade, Subspace Emissary.
Sure, I never loved that mode, but yeah, people would go nuts. People would
People
go nuts.
lose their mind over that.
Yes, they
So
would.
you got the pick for remake and remaster. That leaves you with all new mainline entry, spin-off, and a wild card slot.
I mean, all new mainline entry. I want Zelda, but I know it's not going to
Hey, this
happen
is
next
what you
year.
want. This
Then
is
I'll
what
say
you
it. I
want.
want a new Zelda. I obviously want a new Zelda. Yeah, I think that would be great. I the dream is a new traditional 3D Zelda in the Ocarina of Time style. While the main team cooks on a third Breath of the Wild style game, have some other team at Nintendo or externally make a new Zelda, and I think that would be really awesome, and people would go nuts for it.
Oh man, so you snatched up. I was not going to put Zelda in the mainline entry. I was going to put Zelda in the remake or remaster
Okay.
category
Hmm.
for an Ocarina of Time remake to reintroduce that classic style,
Yeah,
so
that'd be great too.
players who got on board with Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom don't feel cheated and like, oh my god, what do you mean like we don't have an open world Zelda like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom? My
Yeah.
thought is if they do a remake of Ocarina of Time, people will forgive it for having that quote unquote antiquated format, but then they're used to it, right? Because everybody would play that game. So
Hmm.
I would have chosen that, but you snatched up Zelda in the
Yep, it's
mainline
gone.
entry.
It's off the
So
board.
you got Zelda and Smash. That was a strategic choice
Yes.
for you. Let's see. I'll do man. I'll do remake or remaster, and man, I can't do Zelda. I was gonna do Link Between Worlds.
Mm, mhm.
I know I will go Metroid for remake or remaster, and I will do Metroid Samus Returns, the 3DS version, getting a Switch 2 version put out on the console. I think that it's ridiculous that game did not come to Switch at any point in its life.
Yeah. Hmm.
I know they wanted to still make it so people wanted to have a 3DS, but why is that game not on freaking Switch? Like it's incredible, and it would be fantastic on the big screen. We got Dread, so people are on board with the 2D style. Yeah, this seems like a no brainer for me. Give me Metroid Samus Returns as my remake remaster.
Cool. What's is wildcard anything I want?
Yeah,
Can I just
just
put
it
anything there?
just so like it's like the flex position on a fantasy football team where it's like,
Okay,
all right,
cool.
I could
Yeah.
put another quarterback there, I could put another running back there, whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
So
Kid Icarus Uprising is
wait
what
a
I
sec.
want in my wild card. Easily what I want. I think that with motion controls, that game would translate brilliantly. I think in HD, that game would look amazing. It is still one of the most ambitious Nintendo games, story wise, content wise. Yeah, and just playing Kirby Air Riders this last year, just remembering how much I love these Sakurai games that aren't Smash Brothers and how few of them there are. I would love Uprising to come back.
So you jumped my second pick there, but I
Oh, I
wasn't going to
did?
choose. Yeah, I only chose.
Oh, that's not how stake drafts usually work, though.
Yeah,
Is
Snake
it?
Draft's. Yeah, you go back to the person who had first, and then he gets like the final
Oh,
pick
I
in the
thought
next
it
round,
was
and then
I get one, you get one, I get the second two in a row, then we alternate one. That's my bad. I'm sorry. I'll take it
no
off. You
worries.
can
No,
have it.
no, no.
You can
I'm
have
not
it
doing
back.
Kid Icarus Uprising,
Okay.
so that'll just be your. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go. I guess spinoff is my next one. Man, that's tough because a lot of the heavy hitters are off the board already. Um, I'll do. Man, we already are getting a Pokemon spinoff. What about man? There, I will do a Mario spinoff, even though Mario was the mainline entry. I think if Mario Sports is kind of its own
Mm-hmm.
franchise,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do Mario Baseball.
Nice. Okay. I was thinking about that. That's a good choice.
Yeah, Mario Baseball. It's been way too long since we've got one of those. The Switch era showed us that Nintendo is interested in experimenting with these older spin-off franchises that haven't gotten a lot of love in a while. We mentioned
Mm-hmm.
Mario Strikers. I think Mario Baseball. It's time. So
I
that's
would love
my
that.
my spin-off.
I love Mario Superstar Baseball on GameCube so much. Huge baseball fan. That
Yes.
would be amazing.
All right. So that leaves you with your wild card or
My
spin-off. No,
spinoff.
spin-off. Okay.
Yeah, my spinoff, which I'm not sure what to pick here.
It's tough. This is a tough category.
Yeah, a spinoff of something.
Come on, we know you want to pick Donkey Konga.
I don't need that to come back. I don't need Donkey Kong to come back. Man, a Nintendo franchise spin-off. I don't know if like because you Mario's off the board, but is like Captain Toad still on the board? Is that a
Yeah.
spin-off that I can pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pick a Captain Toad game. I think would be great to see. I love Captain Toad so much. And that DLC was like, whoa, they made new levels for this game on Switch. That was crazy. So they could surprise us and come back with another game like that that's just totally unlike anything else in their catalog.
That's a great pick. I wish I would have thought of Captain Toad. That probably would have been my pick instead of a Mario Baseball game. But Mario Baseball, I would be excited for that as well. That
Yeah.
only leaves me with my wild card, and I am going to go Star Fox. It's
Okay,
time.
nice.
It's
Yeah.
time to bring back the Fab Four in space. Give us Fox, give us Falco, give us Slippy, and give us Peppy. Which rest in peace to the voice actor behind Peppy, who I think passed away a couple years ago at this
Mhm.
point. But incredible series that just hasn't been done justice in recent years, recent decades, unfortunately.
Mhm.
I almost put this as my remake or remaster
Mm.
because I think that a remake of Star Fox 64 expanded out with like the best levels from other Star Fox games would be really, really fun. But screw it. Just give us a whole new entry. Give us a whole new Star Fox game, and that's how I'm going to round out my team here, I guess.
Sounds great.
So to recap, I have a mainline Mario game. I'll say 3D Mario game to be specific. Mario Baseball is my spinoff. Uh, Remake was Metroid Samus Returns, and Wildcard was a new Star Fox game. Your mainline was Zelda, preferably
Mhm.
a 3D Zelda. Your
Mhm.
spinoff was Captain Toad. Your remake or remaster was Kid Icarus Uprising.
That was my wild card.
Oh, wildcard. What was your remake remaster?
I'm forgetting. What did I want to remake? Oh, I just said it. What did I want to remake? What did I take?
I should have been taking notes.
Smash Brothers, Smash Ultimate.
Smash Brothers,
Smash
right,
Ultimate.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great call. Yeah, it's like a Switch 2 version of Smash Ultimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we did great there in terms of like dream picks. But
Yeah.
to close out this episode, that's a fun exercise. But what franchises do you think are most realistically due for another entry this year?
Yeah, I have two. I have two that I think, because I think this release schedule is already kind of filled out just based on what we know. Nintendo puts out 1 to 2 games a month, depending on like Switch 1, Switch 2, whatever. So we already have a lot on the calendar. But I think Pokemon Gen 10,
Oh, yeah.
lock it in. They're not going to miss the 30th anniversary. They're not going to miss that without putting a generation out. And I'm not even talking about the leak stuff. I don't even really pay that much attention to that. I just think logically, there's no way Pokemon misses this year. So
No.
Pokemon Gen 10 in November. And then should I share my other main one too?
Yeah, go for it.
October, Luigi's Mansion 4 is my big prediction for this
Whoa.
year. From Next Level Games, it's been a while. Strikers Battle League was 2022, so 4 years ago. And it's been, it'll be 7 years since the last Luigi's Mansion, which was a 10 million plus seller on Switch 1. I think that's a perfect Halloween game for this year.
That is a great call. I'm still leaning that like I'm always in the camp of this could be the year we get a new like 3D Mario game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be tough because the team that has been largely responsible for that just did Donkey Kong Bonanza. So it's like maybe they put it on like a different team on it, and like the 2D team just did Wonder a couple of years ago. Now they're working on Meetup at Bella Bell Park.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who would have been working on a new Mario game. So like that's the problem. And obviously like Nintendo is capable of developing 2 games in in concert with one another, but like it's going to be interesting to see what it is. I think those are 2 great picks. Mario, Pokemon is as close to a lock as you could possibly get. And then Luigi's Mansion, I think I didn't realize it's been 7 years, but I guess that's right. Cause it was pre-pandemic because I was playing that game for review, Luigi's Mansion 3 in the Game Informer office. And I remember that like vividly playing that and having like our former editor in chief, Andy McNamara, being just walking by, watching me for like 5 minutes and going, I always liked Luigi's Mansion. I go, yeah, me too. And he goes, all right, let me know how it is. And then walked away.
Cool. Nice. It's a very specific memory. That's awesome.
It is, yeah. So before we get out of here, Logan, what does Nintendo Voice Chat have on the horizon for 2026?
Yeah, we got a really fun year in store. I mean, we just talked about all the games that we'll definitely be talking about. Nintendo Voice Chat turns 20 years old in February or in late January, which is crazy. It started as Week in Review about the Nintendo Wii in 2006. So yeah, we're celebrating our 20th birthday coming up, which is very exciting. We're gonna have a Metroid Prime 4 Beyond spoiler cast coming up here in a few weeks with Brian Altano and Per Schneider. I'm very excited to sit down and talk to those guys about that. So yeah, that's all over on the IGN Games YouTube channel or on your favorite podcast app. And I think it's going to be a really fun year. Not as insane as 2025 was, but Nintendo's just nonstop these days. So it's going to be a ton of fun.
Absolutely. Well, Logan, thank you so much for joining and helping me kick off this new year of all things Nintendo. I'm so excited to hear what you guys have going on over at Nintendo Voice Chat and of course over at IGN.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a blast and I'm excited to come back on later this year.
And you'll be back very soon. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. As you know, my Patreon and the associated Discord server are the best ways to get any questions or comments in, but you can also get in touch with me at brian@allthingsnintendo.com or hit me up on Blue Sky or Instagram at Brian P. Shea. Logan, tell everyone where they can find you online.
Yeah, you can find me on social media at Logan J. Plant or every Friday morning on NBC.
That is our show for this week. Thank you again for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode of All Things Nintendo. Before we close out the show, I just want to give a special shout out to the $10 patrons of the podcast. Alex Stadnick, Andy Junkins, Ben Richland, Chad Brecky, Chaps My Ass, Derek Sigmund, Dusty Beeman, Ian T. Clark, Jawar Hello, Johnny 5, Jose Villalobos, Joshua DeProy, KC Radio Man, Cody Gibson, Creeper 207, Ozman 83, Paul at Drunk on Mako, Pratable, Rob McCann, Bobby Mac 265, Robert Sosa, Roberto Nieves, Roger Reichert, Russell Sayer, Smithy Poo, Zane Sink, and Zek 3 Sword Sama. Thank you so much for your continued support. You are the reason I'm able to keep doing this week after week.